Good morning, and welcome on a very cold morning, even in the chapel, as we've come to the King Institute for Faith and Culture's final event for the fall. This is our second student lecture. If you don't know about the student lectures at King, these go back to 1960. And it's a tradition in which King faculty choose 2 students every year to give a lecture on something of interest to them, and we're delighted to welcome Allison as our second student lecturer today. I will leave it to Dr. Kingsley to introduce her. This is it for the fall events. We are going to have an online book group for those of you online, especially if you're interested. We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of the publication of Frederick Buechner's novel Godric, and we'll be led in a discussion with Jeff Monroe, who is our Buechner lecturer, if we have him this year. That'll be on December 5th. But otherwise, I appreciate, again, all those who are the faculty student lecturers this fall for their willingness to participate in what has been a very strange fall for us, not having many people out. I am delighted to see today the biggest crowd we've had this fall, all distanced and masked, because they all showed up for Allison. So thank you all for being here. And I will leave it to Dr. Kingsley.
Thanks, Martin. I am honored to introduce Allison this morning. I first had the pleasure of teaching her in a Quest class a couple semesters ago, along with a few of you other wrestlers. She sat in the front row, and I could always count on her to voice thoughtful responses. Every professor longs for such an engaged student in a non-major class like Quest. Since then, as I've spent more time with her, I am consistently impressed by her centeredness, her introspection, her deliberate ruminations that are rooted in a young woman wise beyond her years. She has a subtle incisiveness that is even intimidating at times. She's a professor already. Allison was born in Las Vegas, Nevada, and spent her summers in Michigan on her grandma's goat farm. She started wrestling her freshman year of high school, drawn to the sport's challenge. As she puts it, quote, "There is no hiding from yourself when you're on the mat. Your opponent is trying to exploit every weakness you have." During high school, Allison was also a member of 2 honor societies, enjoyed making copious pottery, and volunteered at a homeless shelter and food pantry. I would love some of that pottery if you still have it lying about. Here at King, Allison has garnered accolades as a member of women's wrestling. She's also been inducted into 2 national honor societies, English and psychology. She served as an RA and a member of the Student Athletic Advisory Committee for 3 years. She was the SGA secretary last year, and she is a writing tutor this year. She will be graduating in May with joint degrees in psychology and English, drawn to both fields due to her love of stories. She plans to pursue a doctorate in counseling psychology at Brigham Young University in Utah, which means we can all bring our problems to her someday, as I'm sure she will offer therapy via Zoom, and we all need therapy. I'm a big fan. I think it will be abundantly clear this morning why Allison was chosen as one of our Student Institute speakers. She lives her life with great purpose and conviction. She pays attention, as Mary Oliver and Frederick Buechner advise us to do. Allison is self-reflexive, humble enough to distill wisdom from even the smallest quotidian encounters. She's been unafraid to leap into her college years with abandon, using this precious time to grow spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually. I know I'm somewhat prone to hyperbole, but believe me when I attest that Allison is exceptionally kind, gracious, introspective, and strong. Nelson Mandela famously said that education is the most powerful weapon one can use to change the world. There is no doubt in my mind that Allison is one of these world changers. I'm humbled to call her my friend. Please welcome Allison Petix.
Good morning, everybody. I want to start off by saying thank you to Dr. Dodderwijk, the King University Institute for Faith and Culture, and the faculty at King for choosing me to speak to you today. Thank you also to Dr. Kingsley. I am grateful for you and your wonderful introduction. I could cry. If you didn't hear, my name is Allison Petix. I am a native of Las Vegas, Nevada. Yes, Nevada, not Nevada. There is no H, people. So this picture is what people normally think of when they think of Las Vegas, and it's the Strip, and it's wonderful with all the lights. But when I think of my home, I think of this view of the mountains with fog rolling in and beautiful desert scenery. I have been a member of King's women's wrestling team for 4 wonderful years, and I am a double major in English and psychology, and I intend on pursuing a doctorate degree in counseling psychology at Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. Upon graduation, before pursuing my graduate degree, I will serve a mission for my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and please don't ask me where I'm going yet because I'm unsure. A little more about me. I love animals and feeding them. My favorite colors are orange and yellow. I love being outside, and I love spending as much time with my family and friends as possible. And I'm a sucker for a good sunset, too. But before I start, you are probably wondering what gives me the authority to give you some life tips. And to that I say, it is the faculty who voted for me to share some of what I've learned in my time at King. So now, on to why I'm here in front of you all. This is a phrase that I picked up from the South. These past 3.5 years have shaped me into someone that I couldn't have foreseen when I was a bright-eyed, graduating high school senior. I knew God wanted me to come to King to wrestle, and that was about all I knew and cared about. I couldn't have told you that I wanted to sit in a chair opposite of someone else and ask them personal questions for a living, the kind of questions that you don't even really want to know the answers to yourself. You know the kinds of things I'm talking about. I'm interested in the things that you shove in your unconscious that manifest themselves in your dreams. I'm talking about repression, the thing that our society tells people to do with the things that they struggle with. For someone as nosy as me, this is a dream job. But in all seriousness, I wouldn't have been able to tell you 3.5 years ago that I wanted to practice counseling. It will allow for me to get to know people on a deeper level and truly appreciate them for who they are and the things that make them them. I think it is my obsession with everyone's narrative that has given me a passion for English and psychology. In psychology, there is a constant battle between nurture and nature. Some believe it is biology or nature that makes us who we are. Others believe that it is how we are raised or nurture, and some believe that it is a combination of both. I am a firm believer in a combination of both. However, I'm partial to the nurture side. We are who we are because of the experiences we have in this life, the people we meet, the places we go, the food we eat, and the relationships that we have, and many other things that make me, Allison, different from you. In English, the narrative is what writers are obsessed with and what readers study and get hooked on. In the English discipline, we want to know all about the narrative of others. In fact, we pride ourselves on knowing the narratives of people from long ago through people who are alive today. We study big names like Shakespeare, Hemingway, Maya Angelou, Richard Wright, T. Bowie, and we study classical texts and foreign places to try to understand what it is that truly makes life meaningful. Thank you, Quest. But what's more important that I've learned from my English studies is that everyone's voice deserves to be heard. The Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie warns about the danger of a single story in her 2009 TED Talk. She emphasizes how harmful it can be if we hear only a single story about another person or country. We risk a critical misunderstanding. The canon that has been taught for years isn't representative of a diversity of voices. and we desperately need to hear the voices of all people, of all different colors, races, religions, sexualities, nations, and tongues. I've learned how important it is to learn about people who come from different places, who look different, who speak different languages. I've learned the importance of being politically correct and sensitive to the experiences that others have had. I've learned that it's everyone's responsibility to foster an inclusive place for everyone to live. That means a place where we love our neighbors, and I mean all of our neighbors. We walk different paths in this life, and there is much richness to be gained from listening more than we speak. My Oma used to tell me, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You're supposed to listen twice as much as you speak. It is crucial that we listen to others and truly love them for who they are and put to rest prejudices that do nothing other than divide and disown. God made you to be you, not a copy of someone else. He made you in his likeness so that you may learn to be like him in your own unique ways and develop Christ-like attributes. I've learned what the power of a single story can do. It can cause lasting change. It can shape the world. That's why it is necessary for all of us to listen to the stories of those around us, even to be uncomfortable at times, and let that uncomfortable feeling create lasting change in our lives. Change that fosters true Christian love that is all-inclusive. So, I'm here to tell you a little bit about my story and the lessons that I've learned so that you can pull something from my narrative and maybe you'll see it echo your story. I will use some parables to illustrate my points, so if you're a note taker like I am, here's the time to start taking notes. Tip number 1. Don't take yourself so seriously. Now you guys are probably going to laugh because I am a pretty serious person most of the time. But when I first came to King, believe it or not, I was all business. I wanted to go to my classes, go to my practices and lifts, and to do all of my homework way before it was due. Now don't get me wrong, these are great things. And as a student athlete, it is important that you focus on both the student and athlete parts of yourself. In order to make sure that both sides are satisfied, time management is crucial. But that doesn't mean that you can't smile and have a good time while you're doing it. In high school, I was so used to making sure I did everything that I had to do most of the time that I forgot to have fun. I would go to practice strictly to wrestle, and I wouldn't laugh or joke or mess around ever. I was there to clock in my practice hours and clock out. By doing this, I missed out on great opportunities to build relationships with teammates. When I did my schoolwork, it would stress me out to the point where I'd get burnt out and skip school in order to get much needed rest. There was no balance in my school life, which consequently resulted in a general dislike for high school on my part. Imagine how different my time in high school would have been if I loosened up a little and took everything I was doing a little less seriously. I can say that if it weren't for wonderful teammates my freshman year of college, I don't think I would have changed much. I think I would still be clocking in and out and letting the time tick by and losing so much of the value that these 4 years can have. If you relax a little, let your hair down, loosen your belt a couple notches, you too might find out that life is meant to be joyful and not to be something that is spent without a smile. Tip 2. Take a class, or 2, or 3, just because you want to. Now, I'm sure that you've heard something along the lines of, going to King is a unique opportunity because you will receive a liberal arts education. And if you haven't, I'm here to shine some light on that topic. King University's mission and vision page says its strategic goals and objectives for its academic programs are to provide rigorous academic programs that encompass the historical foundation of our distinctive Christian liberal arts and sciences tradition with knowledge and application relevant for serving today's community and student needs. This, my friends, is what our faculty and staff believe in. They believe that we will become better citizens of the world by pursuing a liberal arts education where we can become thoughtful, resourceful, and responsible. I agree with them. So, in the spirit of persuading you to reap all the benefits of this type of education, take a class that isn't required for you to graduate. I know this is a funny concept. You, or your parents, or maybe both, are paying good money for you to be here. That means that you should squeeze every last drop of learning that you can out of your time here at King. I know what you're thinking, but I don't have time, or I'm already taking a lot of hours, and to that I'm pulling the "if I did it, so can you" card. I am double majoring, I'm an athlete, I have 2 jobs and an internship, and these are just my school obligations. So I promise you can make time for anything if you make it a priority. By making it a priority to take some classes that weren't required for my major, I was able to branch out and learn some things that come up in many of my conversations. I took a piano class for 2 semesters, and I am by no means proficient, but I have a solid foundation for playing now. I took a business class, of which was not my cup of tea, but allowed for me to figure out what I didn't want to major in. I took a calculus class and a chemistry class, and I decided to drop the chem class halfway through, and I'm sure I don't want to be a PA. And I took a DMAD class where we spent a semester talking about art. I am grateful for all of my experiences in these classes because they have given me a greater appreciation for different disciplines. And sometimes, in order to find out what you're meant to do, you must take some classes that make you stop and reevaluate your plan. Tip 3, don't put people in boxes. I don't mean literally, although you probably shouldn't put people in literal boxes either. What I mean is to allow others room to grow and change. Life is hard enough without the constant worry that those around you are watching every move you make. In reality, though, people don't pay as much attention to those around you as you may think, and that's a positive. We can all do at least a little better at being slow to judge and quick to forgive. I am very far from perfect in this department, but it is something that I have been working on, and I hope I've made some improvement. We need to allow old versions of people to die away when they are trying to better themselves, and we need to receive new versions of them. This is easier said than done when an old version of someone has done or said things that seem unforgivable. But with time and some grace and some repentance, all things can be forgiven. You only accomplish one thing when you confine people to older versions of themselves by closing the lid on their boxes. And that thing is preventing yourself from moving on. When you refuse to move on and forgive, you are the one carrying it. You are carrying the burden that you don't need to carry, at least not alone, and that's where the Savior comes in with his infinite grace. While on the topic of grace, we come to the next slide. Tip 4, grant yourself some grace. There is no better definition of grace I've heard than grace is a gift from Heavenly Father given through His Son, Jesus Christ. The word grace, as used in the Scriptures, refers primarily to enabling power and spiritual healing offered through the mercy and love of Jesus Christ. This means that grace helps us when we fall short and allows us to have power and spiritual healing through Jesus' love and mercy for all of us. Allowing myself to feel grace has been one of the hardest things I have ever done. It wasn't until recently that I can say that I had a glimpse at what Christ's grace feels like, and it was in the moment where I felt like I had crossed the line one too many times. His grace feels like a warm blanket being wrapped around you when the day has been long and you are completely exhausted. It feels like the hug of someone who loves you despite all of the inadequacies that you think that you have. It feels like grabbing an outstretched hand when you're drowning. His grace is sufficient for all I have done or will do, and the same goes for you. You can never travel too far from the Savior. He has a place for you in his fold, and he notices when you're gone. So, I'm challenging you to abandon perfectionistic ideology and replace it with the notion that done is better than perfect. Do all you can, and know that you have done what's asked of you, and his grace will take care of the rest. Tip 5. Don't forget your friends. Your time here is limited. And to borrow a metaphor from my coach, JM, from the time you stepped foot on this campus, your college hourglass was flipped and the sand started trickling out. Make use of the time you have at this university to, of course, go to your classes and earn your degree, but don't be too busy fulfilling course requirements that you have no time to make and keep friends. Let me remind you all, this spring, COVID hit everyone pretty hard. For everyone, social gatherings were terminated, people were scared to interact with others, and this created a decline in mental wellness. We are social creatures by nature. We need interaction with each other. In fact, by interacting with others when you are stressed, your brain releases the hormone oxytocin, so you are encouraged to seek people out and build close relationships with them. If quarantining and having to return home early from school last semester wasn't reason enough to seek out your friends, think of the stress relief benefit that cultivating close relationships with them will have, especially at this point in the semester when we could all use a little bit of stress relief. When you feel like being alone because you're studying for a test, or when you choose not to spend time with a friend at a pumpkin patch because you'd rather catch up on sleep, remember that your time as a college student is a unique time in your life, and there will most likely not be another time in your life that you get to spend so much time with your peers. Take advantage of this time with your friends, and I promise you won't regret it. Tip 6, get close to faculty and staff. The next slide, I would just like to say thank you, Dr. Ong, for the picture. Going off my last point, this is a unique time in your life. You are currently in an academic community with faculty and staff at your disposal. They range in life experience, age, cultural background, knowledge base, and so many other wonderful things. Build relationships with them. Not only are they good at writing you amazing letters of recommendation, thank you, Julia, but they are also great at imparting bits of wisdom that you will hold on to for the rest of your life. These people are in your life for a reason, so don't be shy and ask them for help, or start a conversation with them. They love and care for you and want what's best for you. I cannot express the depth of my gratitude for all of my faculty and staff at King that I have come into contact with in my time here. Whether you be my coaches, professors, residence life staff, or many others, thank you for your love and support. I have truly felt at home here for the last 3.5 years, and that would not have been made possible without all of you. Tip 7, Don't be afraid to be your authentic self. I don't think I'm alone in having feelings of insecurity when it comes to who I am as a person. We all at times feel insecure. My mom told me that when I was young, I sat for hours alone, entertaining myself with toys or hiding in closets. I was perfectly content being by myself with my thoughts, whatever they may have been as a young child. If I can be completely honest, I wouldn't even order for myself at restaurants until I was 12 years old, and I most certainly did not talk to strangers. This was in part because of my temperament, and in part because my mom told me that strangers would steal me. I was what many would label as shy or antisocial. This is something that stayed with me and caused me to feel feelings of inadequacy as I grew older and went through puberty. Now, puberty isn't a glamorous process for anyone, but for me, it was a time marked by struggles to feel comfortable being introverted, which at the time I didn't know was a thing. I thought it just meant that I was a loner. Most people don't go around telling people that it's okay to be alone. It's okay to like listening more than speaking. We are told by media that the way to be is to go around and go to parties, always be the life of the party, to have many friends, and that your worth is measured by your popularity and how many likes your posts get. This is the picture that I had in my head as normal. It was the mold I was trying to fill, and I'm sure you have felt the pressures too. Our lives are not meant to be broadcasted to the world. Your worth is not dependent on likes and comments. You are valuable whether you have only yourself or if you have 1,000 friends. Many of you are probably surprised when I tell you that I'm an introvert because I'm now comfortable being me, and that includes being comfortable with being an introvert. I'm not saying there is anything wrong with being an extrovert. I am, however, saying that it is wrong to be uncomfortable about who you are. You were not created to feel inferior. In fact, if you spend your whole life uncomfortable with who you are, you will have missed out on your divine potential, and you will have missed out on who God created you to be. You will have missed the opportunity to be you. At times, I still feel uneasy because for those of you who know me, you know that I'm not afraid to tell you my truth, which easily slips into the realm of oversharing and people saying too much information. But for what it's worth, I go to sleep at night knowing that I was honest about who I was today. That is part of me, and the more comfortable I am with me, the more able I am to fulfill the many roles in life that God is calling me to fulfill. So, please, I am begging you, go into the world and don't be ashamed of who you are. I'm not suggesting, however, that you stop growing. I'm suggesting that you learn who you are and allow yourself to change and grow so that you can always figure out what it means to be you. So be your authentic self. We desperately need your authentic self. We don't need 8 billion people who are the same. We need people who use their talents and know who they are to go into the world to create lasting change that is meant to change the world we live in. As Dr. Seuss once said, "Today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive that is youer than you." Tip 8, be careful what you say about yourself and others. It is easy for all of us to get carried away in the opinions of others. From a young age, we are told by parents who we are, what we should do, and how we should act. All of these things are necessary and important when raising children, but imagine how damaging it would be if the things that your parents told you about yourself were all bad. Now think about you, right now, as an adult. Your opinion of yourself and what you say about yourself is important because you will believe it, and this belief about yourself, whether good or bad, will influence the way you think and act. In psychology, there is this thing called the Pygmalion Effect. Some of you may know it as what's referred to as self-fulfilling prophecy. The website Positive Psychology sums it up pretty well when it says, when we believe something about ourselves, we are more likely to act in ways that correspond to our beliefs, thus reinforcing our beliefs and encouraging the same behavior. Similarly, when we believe something about others, we may act in ways that encourage them to confirm our assumptions, thus reinforcing our beliefs about them. This means that it is crucial that we are careful what we say about ourselves, because the things we say form our beliefs, and our beliefs motivate our actions. I encourage you to look at yourself in the mirror when you're getting ready for the day and you tell yourself out loud something positive about yourself. For example, I am capable, I can do hard things, I am smart, I am a child of God, and so on. These things truly make a difference in how you feel about yourself, and it will make a difference in how you interact with the world around you. You are responsible for manifesting positivity into your life. It is way too easy to let negative thoughts creep in if you aren't consciously fighting against them. If you know me, you know that I don't like swearing. But even more than not liking swearing in general, I despise using swear words to describe someone else or any other demeaning words for that matter. It is not cute to call someone a B word. It is not endearing to call someone an $. It is not empowering to repurpose a word that has been used to oppress people, then call your friends by it. Your words are important. So please be careful about the words that you choose to call others and yourself, because I promise you are listening and they are listening, and those words will impact them. Tip 9, be kind. As I have pondered each of these tips, I've come back to this one and stared at a blank space that I left for it. This is where I fear that I may seem hypocritical, but please bear with me. I will be the first one to tell you that I am not always the kindest. I have an affinity for sarcasm and a mouth that moves faster than my brain. This has awarded me many sideways glances and a few backhands in my life. I will tell you, like anything, with some conscious effort, you can be a little bit kinder and a little slower to judge. Now, with that being said, in a perfect world where people didn't do things that we find annoying, and we didn't have things like hormonal changes and emotions, being kind would be a piece of cake. But on the days where it seems like everything is going wrong and you want to blow up on someone, oftentimes someone who did nothing to you, try a little harder to bite your tongue. I can tell you from experience that when you bite your tongue instead of saying that hurtful thing you wanted to say, you save yourself the guilt of saying something you'll regret. And even better, you'll save the bystander from the harmful effects of your anger or rudeness. As for the people who try to anger you, I'll give you some advice my mom gave me when I was young. She told me that choosing to say something kind when you want to say something mean, you deny the other person the satisfaction of affecting you. When you do this, it makes the other person even more enraged that they couldn't make you mad too. If you'd like another example of choosing to be kind, think of Jesus when he was preaching the Sermon on the Mount. He says in Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 and 39, "Ye have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that ye resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also." Remember, the hard, righteous choice is always better than the easy, hurtful choice. Tip 10, be open-minded. You will have missed a tremendous opportunity to expand your worldview if you leave college the same person that you came in. It's uncomfortable to change, but all worthwhile things are uncomfortable. This is the time to ditch your old ways that don't serve your becoming a better person and adopt new ways that add value to the person you intend to become. I'm suggesting that you slay your dragons, people. Do something that makes you feel uncomfortable and scares you. Meet new people, try new food, go on a service trip, volunteer somewhere, go to a Slack event, sing karaoke, especially if you're scared. Have hard conversations with people who have different views than you, and don't get mad, just listen. Please be uncomfortable. Challenge yourself to push out of your comfort zone in every area of your life, and I promise you will be a different person for it. Fully buy into being a better version of yourself, and you'll surprise yourself at how far you'll go. My coaches, JM and Julia, challenge my team every day to be a little bit better than we were the day before. I'm not just talking about performance, because it can be hard to see small changes in performance, but I am talking about mentally, spiritually, physically, pushing a bit further than you did the day before. They challenge us to be elite. And for those of you who are freshmen on the team, you have not seen this yet, but they're pushing us to be on the far side, and they're pushing us to be outside of the mountain of average. When JM says elite, he isn't talking about being LeBron James. He is talking about being the absolute best version of yourself. So don't set limitations for yourself. Try to be a little bit better each day, and have some grace for yourself when you fall short, but never give up on yourself. Tip 11, slow down, be present. I'm going to share a story with you. In February of this year, as our national tournament was approaching, I was feeling the pressure of my expectations coupled with the weight of feelings of inadequacy, and I couldn't breathe. I was just trying to survive. When I walked into the wrestling room for a one-on-one with my partner, one-on-ones are hour-long individual practices where you get to focus on whatever technique you want. We sat down across from JM, and he asked us how we were, and I confessed that I felt like I was spinning plates. I was trying to get my plates from falling off their sticks. I was trying to balance all the demands of my life, and the plates were crashing down. I will never forget what he said to me next. He said something along the lines of, "Allison, when I think of you, I don't think of there being anything lacking." And in that moment, I believed him. What a powerful thing to believe, that you're capable and that you can do hard things. He told me that life is like wearing many hats, not balancing spinning plates. You can only wear one hat at a time, otherwise you'll look pretty goofy. But when the time comes, you can put on another hat. This is one of the most powerful lessons that I have learned in being present. Being present doesn't allow for you to become overwhelmed by all your responsibilities, because let's face it, we all have a lot of things on our plates. Instead, it allows you to focus on the hat you're wearing at that time. Whether that hat is working on a paper, talking to a friend, eating with your family, or anything else, you will be more present if you focus on what you're doing and who you're doing it with right now. We owe it to the people we love and ourselves to give our full attention and presence as often as possible. That means disconnecting from your phones and being in the moment, no mindless scrolling. Just real-life moments being where you're at. Some final thoughts. At this point, I hope you picked at least one tip to carry with you into the world. Who you will become in your time at this university is only the beginning of a life filled with unlimited possibilities. Going to college is not just about making money in whatever profession you pursue after your time here. It is also about learning who you are and where you want to go. Our time on this campus and our time on this earth is limited. So make some friends, learn who you are, go out into the world, and have joy in continuing your education in life. Your education doesn't stop when you walk around the oval at commencements. In fact, that's just the beginning of what life has in store for you to learn. Be a student of life. Learn as much as you can. Try to be better, and know that it's okay when you fall short. Love others and lift them too. Be kind, be courteous, fall in love, make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and be better for them. I promise you that you will regret staying comfortable. So be brave and become who it is that God has created you to be. I will leave you with some wisdom from the author Zora Neale Hurston's novel, Their Eyes Were Watching God. 2 things everybody's got to do for themselves. They got to go to God, and they got to find out about living for themselves. So go out into the world, lose yourself in the act of finding God and finding yourself, and everything else will fall into place. I promise you won't regret it, and the world will be a better place for it. I love you all. Thank you so much for everyone for coming and watching online. I am beyond thankful for this opportunity and everyone who has made it possible.
I don't know. I think she might want to get her PhD in motivational speaking instead. So I get to present Allison with a plaque today that commemorates this fantastic speech, and I just have to say that Allison is truly representative of the formational effects of education at its very best, the kind of student that King turns out and that we are so, so proud of. I can only imagine how proud your mom must be. I'm so grateful, so proud. So join me once again in thanking Allison. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for coming.